Welcome back to another action figure obsession video. It's me, your old pal, Avian and Loaded, and this is kind of a follow-up to the video that I did yesterday about Deathlok and Skull Crusher. And I want to talk just a little bit more about Deathlok. We see him here with some of the heroes that he has fought either against or alongside over the years since his creation in August of 1974. Deathlok was a creation of Rich Buckler. And his initial appearance in Astonishing Tales, I did do a little research, was scripted by Doug Mensch, but I believe Rich Buckler plotted the issue and the story and created the character. And Rich Buckler does not have a lot of huge accomplishments on his resume. He, as I said yesterday, was a stalwart at especially Marvel Comics, but he also did some stuff at DC. And he was a go-to artist by all appearances. He was very reliable and turned his work in on time and must have been well liked by the editors. But for the most part, he was a journeyman artist. Deathlok was really, in my opinion, and correct me if you feel differently. Feel free to jump in the comments and let me know. But I think the Deathlok was Buckler's signature creation. I'm sure that it probably had some inspirational foundation in other adventure fiction or heroic fiction that Buckler had seen or read. But keep in mind, if you look at this guy and go, well, that's just the Terminator, or, he's just another cyborg with, half his face missing, well, most of his skin missing anyway. August 1974, the Terminator wasn't even thought of yet, and there really were no characters like this in comics that I can think of off the top of my head. Certainly not that have endured now for 52 years. Deathlok is a fabulous 1970s Marvel character. There are a handful. The Golden Age gave us Captain America over here, and the Submariner, and the original Human Torch, and the original Vision, and a few other characters, or at least characters whose names continued into the Silver Age in the 1960s. But the 1970s had some really, really unique and complex creations like Deathlok here. Shang-Chi, Master of Kung Fu, Moon Knight began in the late 1970s. Also, by the way, I believe written and perhaps created by Doug Mensch, who scripted Deathlok's first appearances over Buckler's plotting. Sometimes you have an artist who has a great idea, but they don't feel that they're very good with words, or the publisher doesn't feel that they're appropriate to actually be writing the words that are going to appear in the word balloons and the thought bubbles. So and the caption boxes. Let us not forget the caption boxes. So I don't know why Doug Mensch is the scripter on the first appearance of Deathlok in Astonishing Tales in August of 1974, but he did a fine job. I read the book last night, and man, it holds up. I mean, the artwork is very 1970s, but it was the 1970s. What are you going to do? It was 1974. How's it not going to look like the 1970s? And Deathlok, and maybe I should just do a video, because I do have a great deal of love and affection for Marvel's 1970s characters. And certainly Deathlok is one of the most memorable, one of the most unusual. He was a character on Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D., the TV series, but he certainly didn't look anything like this, and they didn't capture the magic. I mean, it was a good character and a good performance, but it was not this. It was not Deathlok in his red shorts and tunic and his chest tube and his the half robot face and half zombie face. And the thing about Deathlok that I think has made him so enduring, other than the fact that apparently he doesn't stand up as well as I thought he did. Sorry, gotta fix him. Doing this one-handed here. The thing that makes Deathlok an enduring character, and he has had different different people, I think would be the word. Not enough caffeine yet this morning. Different characters have become Deathlok in the comics over the years. But Luther Manning was the first one, and the thing that echoes down through all of Luther Manning's appearances in Captain America, in Marvel 2-in-1, in the Project Pegasus saga with The Thing and Nick Fury and many other guest characters that I don't have figures of. The thing about Luther Manning is that his humanity always shone through. If not always in his interactions with other superheroes, but with himself and with his internal monologue that he had, or dialogue really, with his internal computer, the computer inside him that monitored his activities and advised him of his power levels and whether or not something was a good idea. So you saw a lot of caption boxes in early Deathlok appearances where he was talking back and forth with the computer in his head that was helping to keep him alive and help keep him going as he went on, his various missions. Spider-Man's alongside here for two reasons, and again, I did, a good 15 seconds worth of research to jog my memory. In 1976, 2 years after Deathlok's creation, he appeared in an issue of Marvel Team Up with the Amazing Spider-Man. This is my most 1970s looking Amazing Spider-Man. It is the Spider-Man Retro Collection Wave 1, Series 1, Superposable Spider-Man from 2020. One that has since been surpassed in the minds of many people by the Renew Your Vows Spider-Man, which I have, and by the Maximum Spider-Man, which I do not have at the moment, perhaps someday. But this is, to my mind, my most 1970s looking Spider-Man. This is very clearly a John Romita Sr. / Gil Kane / Ross Andrew era Spider-Man, both in the coloring of the costume and the silhouette of the body and the look of the face. And so I would like to think this is the Spider-Man that met Deathlok 2 years after Deathlok's debut in that Marvel Team-Up issue in 1976. So that's why I threw Spidey in here, because this is definitely my mind's eye 1970s Spider-Man. He also makes a pretty good Alex Ross Spider-Man, since this head sculpt is so clearly meant to evoke John Romita Sr. and Alex Ross's Spider-Man in Marvels and in other comics. Definitely was going for a John Romita Sr. vibe. That's probably what Alex Ross grew up reading. And I think one thing about Alex Ross, and he is a marvelous painter, and his depictions of Marvel characters have always been fascinating and intriguing and beautiful. But he definitely is inspired by a primal nostalgia for what Marvel Comics was in the late 60s and early to mid 70s. And, Deathlok is a big part of that for me, my nostalgia of the 1970s, of discovering, I think, the first Deathlok story that I ever read. If it wasn't that Marvel Team-Up issue, it was probably when he guest starred in Captain America, I think for a multi-issue run, and I haven't done any research on that, but I definitely remember Mike Zeck drawing Deathlok in Captain America. Mike Zeck, one of the greatest Marvel Comics artists of the 1980s, the guy that drew the original Secret Wars series and the original Punisher miniseries and many other great books. But Deathlok here, man, I've been thinking about him. Well, I was thinking about him all night. I had a hard time sleeping last night. I have a hard time sleeping most nights lately. Hence the constant need for caffeination. And I realized when I watched the video back just before I went to bed that there was some dust and grime in the crevices on his tunic and his shoulders, and I felt bad about that. I don't know if you guys pay that close of attention, if you're more interested in the subject matter than the cleanliness of the figures, but it haunted me all night. Every time I woke up, I was thinking, I got to clean that figure because he's so beautiful. I have a list of my top 15 Marvel Legends of all time, and Deathlok is definitely a top 5 figure. Right now, just standing here looking at him, while he's standing, I'm sitting. Me sitting here looking at him standing, I actually think that he is perhaps my number 1 best Marvel Legends figure. I mean, I love figures like the 20 Years Captain America, which this is not. This is the Marvel vs. Capcom Gamerverse Captain America. But I chose him for this because he has more of a 1970s look. I love the 80 Years Hulk. I love the 80 Years Hulk so much that it's that it ought to be illegal. Uh, but uh, but this Deathlok, man, the thing that sets it apart from any Captain America or any Incredible Hulk figure. Captain America and the Incredible Hulk are iconic, but they're also very simple. Deathlok is not simple. And this is the second Deathlok that appeared in the Marvel Legends line. Toy Biz did a Deathlok, which for its time was very good. If you want to look up, a review of the Toy Biz Deathlok figure, I don't think you'll be horrified unless you're, talking about the head sculpt, because obviously Deathlok's head sculpt is always horrifying, at least if you have any empathy or decency. Um, but the complexity of this costume, which was there from the very beginning, Hasbro is not known for accurately reproducing the complexity of many characters. And, when they do it, when they really give you an accurate and well-detailed version of a figure, and here's another guy from the 70s, Rom Space Knight, although I'm not sure. I think the Rom toy debuted in late, like, 78 or 79. The comic, I don't think, came out until the 80s. I could be wrong about that. But this is another good example. Deathlok and Rom here. And boy, what a team they would be, huh? They're both great examples of Hasbro not dropping the ball, not skimping out on paint, not skimping out on details, not skimping out on accessories. Both these figures came with great paint jobs. They both came with great accessories. I'm assuming, there's a man named Jesse Falcon who I believe works for Hasbro and has been a guiding force in the Marvel Legends line since the Toy Biz days, since 2002, and came with Marvel Legends when it went to Hasbro in the late 2000s, like 2000. Boy, I heard somebody say recently that Toy Biz went out of business in 2006. I thought it was 2008, but I'm not real clear on that because I did drop out of Marvel Legends collecting for a time there. But in any case, I know that Jesse Falcon is a guy with a lot of nostalgia for Marvel. And I really believe that sometimes when we get a ROM like this or Deathlok, I have to assume it's a passion project for one person who somehow manages to pass on that passion to the design team, the engineering team, and even to the factory level, because these are figures that could easily have been screwed up in the factory. I have two of these ROMs. And one of the most striking things about it, in addition to the incredibly vivid and accurate levels of sculpting detail, is the paint. It is literally covered head to toe in silver paint. And that is something that Hasbro does every once in a while. They did it with the Ursa Major Wave Ultron. They did it with the Silver Surfer that came out most recently in the mini comic sort of retro wave last year. When they do a head-to-toe silver character and they cover it in paint, it is a thing to behold. Look at that ROM. Now, Deathlok, he isn't meant to look shiny and new. And, you can see that his thighs and his arms and his hands are largely silver. But I think it might be the swirly twirly plastic. I can't tell for sure if it's the light casting shadows or if maybe there's a little black wash on there. But that's fine. If the level of detail, if the level of the sculpted detail is so great that you can't tell with your naked eye whether it has paint on it or not, because, just the natural shadows being cast by light. Yeah, I think that it's just the level of the sculpting detail on Deathlok that makes him look so amazing. But I do. I have to hand it to Hasbro. Somebody yesterday in one of the comments mentioned my beef with Hasbro, and I do have a beef with Hasbro when they drop the ball, when they have the opportunity to do something good and they don't even go halfway. And that's often the case. For example, the Dr. Spectrum figure that came with Hyperion in that Squadron Supreme 2-pack. They completely half-assed Dr. Spectrum, threw him on the Bucky Cap body, and just painted the details and called it good enough. I don't believe there was any new sculpting. I don't believe there was anything to make it good. Obviously, in that 2-pack, all the money was spent on Hyperion, and, you know, for my money, rightly so. I wanted a good Hyperion more than I wanted a good Dr. Spectrum. Hyperion and Dr. Spectrum are Marvel's versions of Superman and Green Lantern. Um, and I love, you know, one of the things that I'm interested in collecting is sort of alternate versions of Superman, characters that were inspired by Superman. Two that I have in my Marvel collection are Hyperion and the Sentry. And neither one of them is anywhere near as good as this Deathlok. Hyperion is pretty close, though. That's got a very nice head sculpt, and the body was a big improvement over the original Hyperion. And man, I'm just now remembering that I was going back to talking about cleaning up this Deathlok and how I couldn't sleep last night, and kept thinking about how this Deathlok needed to be given a better cleaning to get the grime and grunge out of the nooks and crannies. And when I got up this morning, the second thing I did was clean them up. If you have an action figure collection, and if they are out of the box, you know, and they're standing around on a shelf somewhere in a cool pose or just in a vanilla sort of museum pose, like I have all these guys, one of the most important tools, and again, everybody remind me, one of these days I will do a video about the tools that I use to kind of maintain and enhance my collection of action figures. But a good microfiber cloth, I mean, this will cost you, well, like 6 or 8 of these will cost you $1 at a dollar store. And with inflation, maybe it's more now. But first thing I did this morning was grab that microfiber cloth and pop Deathlok's head off very carefully, because I don't want to break him, and he is an older figure. I think he came out in 2017, and same wave as that Sasquatch wave Deadpool, whose harness got brittle and broke over time. So I don't want anything getting brittle or breaking with my Deathlok, even though I do have one backup, but I want to keep them both kind of minty fresh. So I got into his clavicle, and I got into the nooks and crannies on his arm and the boots. And it just generally, I took off his backpack and wiped him down some, and I hope that shows. If you go back and you look at the video from yesterday, I hope he looks a little shinier, a little newer than he did yesterday. I feel like he has that new cyborg smell that everybody loves so much. I'm probably going to spend some time today looking up some other old Deathlok comics and kind of re-immersing myself. Maybe the Project Pegasus saga. I got to look up that Spider-Man appearance in Marvel Team Up, because I don't think that I don't remember anything about it. Maybe I read it, maybe I didn't. I was definitely buying comic books by 1976, but you know, I was all over the map. I was 10 years old, and I was buying Marvel, DC, Charlton Comics. I was buying Harvey, Archie. I was buying Spire Christian comics when I lived in Florida. I mean, I would buy anything that was a comic book. I was doing Jack Chick tricks or tracts, Jack Chick tracts. If you know what those are, if you don't, look it up on YouTube, and your mind will be blown. But yeah, I was a big fan of those. I didn't really buy into the philosophies and religion of them, but they are wild. They're like little horror comics with a religious point of view. The Jack Chick comics from back in the day that you used to find laying around everywhere in Florida. They'd be on every flat surface. Somebody had left a big pile of them so that you could get your soul saved. And the thing that really saves my soul these days is having great action figures. And this Deathlok is certainly one of the best. I mentioned I have a top 15 list of my all-time favorite Marvel Legends action figures, and I'm just going to look now and see if that's right handy in my... Oh, there it is right there. Look at that. I'm not going to tell you all of them because I may do a video, but I will tell you some of them. How's that? Deathlok is on the list, as is... Is there anything else here that's on the list? I might put this Spider-Man on the list instead of the Renew Your Vows, because it has so much more gravitas for me than Renew Your Vows. Renew Your Vows is a very nice Spider-Man figure, but boy, the longer that it gets since this figure came out in 2020, the less I buy the hype that Renew Your Vows or Maximum Spider-Man is better. I mean, I know this Spider-Man 2020 Retro Spider-Man has flaws, but man, just the way he looks, to me, makes up for a lot, because I can see the Nicholas Hammond TV Spider-Man in that Spider-Man. I can see all the great Ross Andrews Spider-Man comics that I read in the 1970s when I was a kid and becoming a teenager. Uh, he just looks so damn good. And he looks so damn good next to Deathlok. I mean, don't you want to read a story with Deathlok and these guys? The Project Pegasus saga in Marvel 2-in-1, which I think started around issue 54, if I recall correctly, my 15 seconds of research. You'll see Deathlok teaming up with Ben Grimm, the Thing, and Nick Fury, and a whole bunch of other really cool characters in what at that time was kind of an unprecedented issues-long saga that today we would just call a graphic novel. But so some of the other figures on my top 15 Marvel Legends list: the 20 years Captain America, not a surprise to anybody that watches this channel. The 80 years Hulk that came in the 2-pack with Wolverine. The 60 years Black Widow is definitely a top 15 contender for me. In fact, these are all top 10, really. The Walgreens Thing, he's right back there in the back doing his ever-loving blue-eyed thing. And Kazar and Zabu from, I think that was 2024 or 2020. Yeah, I think it was 2024, the Kazar and Zabu and the Zabu Build-A-Figure wave. Oh, he's right here. Dig him out, too. Yeah, I mean, he's more of a top 15 when he has Zabu with him. And it's a simple figure and a simple design, but they nailed this Kazar. I mean, this is Kazar. What can I tell you? That's him. Yep, I remember him well. I'd know him anywhere. So yeah, maybe I'll do that top 15 video at some point very soon, just to give you the rundown of what I think. Of course, I'm going to have to get my microfiber cloth. Oh, did you see the list? Don't rewind that. Don't pause that. Don't freeze frame that. You can if you want. Not a big deal. But yeah, maybe I'll do that top 15. Is Rom on this list? Yep, he is. Okay, just making sure, because he definitely belongs on the top 15 Marvel Legends list, in my opinion. Figure of the year 2025, right there. Rom, Space Knight. Okay, I think I've said it all, and then kept going for about another 10 minutes. Thanks for joining me for this action figure obsession video. I appreciate you stopping by and listening to me ramble on a little more about my buddy Luther Manning, aka Deathlok. If you like this video, please leave a thumbs up, like, comment, subscribe, hit the notification bell if you subscribe so you can find out whenever I upload anything new. And of course, share the video with your friends if you know anybody who likes cyborg time travelers from the future with metal arms, and jungle lords, and captains of America, and ever-loving blue-eyed things, and furious Nicholases, and of course Space Knights like the wonderful Rom. That'll do it for this action figure obsession. Thanks again for stopping by, and I will see you with my cyborg eyes. All right, I'm going to learn to do this. I'll see you. Okay, here we go on the next one.